Hey everyone, welcome to the next installment of the ITBP Fireside Chat series. I'm going to go ahead and invite my co-host Feng as well as our guest Rufio to join us. And like I said, today we're going to be talking to Rufio. He's a personal trainer, but he boasts a lot more titles than that. We'll definitely on. Oh hey, I see you guys in the audience. Awesome. You're already requesting to join. I'm accepting right now, so hopefully it'll load in a second. It always takes Instagram a minute to actually add people to the call. So there we go. We got Steve on.
Hi, hi there.
Hi. I'm Rufio sent a request to join, so I keep pressing accept. Sometimes it takes a minute. I'm hoping it'll go through.
Yeah,
Ah,
it took me a minute too.
yeah. Let's see. Uh, yeah, Rufio. I see your request to see you in the audience. I'm hitting accept like over and over again. So I'm just waiting for Instagram to actually uh accept it. Oh, it says you're unable to join. That's weird. Um,
So
let's
maybe
see.
you can. Oh no, I think I see you.
There we go.
Okay.
Yay, it's working. Can you guys
Technology
hear me?
finally works. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Great. I always love it when we are able to get everybody on within the first 2 or 3 minutes. So all right, welcome everybody. I was just saying that today we're going to be talking to Rufio. And before we get into his intro, I want to go ahead and introduce myself and my co-host. I'm Nat, in case you haven't been here before. I'm the Assistant Executive Director of the ITBP. And I have my awesome co-host, Siu Feng, all the way over in Hong Kong, so they're super tired right now. Um, and Siu Feng, if you don't know them, they are a non-binary IFBB pro, a bodybuilder, posing coach, an LGBT advocate, ambassador to several organizations, including the IATBP. So today we get to talk to Rufio. A quick intro about Rufio if you didn't see the Instagram post that we had about him. He's a personal trainer, but it seems like Rufio, you also boast a couple of other titles. I think you listed Biomechanics Specialist, Functional Range Practitioner, and Fascia Movement Trainers. So we're gonna get into what all of that means, and we're very curious about what all that means to you specifically. Um, and in utilizing those different like forms of coaching and practicing, he seems to be wanting to really change the way that people approach bodybuilding and overall fitness and wellness. And we're excited to learn about how you've kind of connected, I think it was breath work, Qigong, and physical training all with bodybuilding, and also your history with the IATBP. So thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm happy to jump on here, talk to you guys, and let everybody else know what's going on. I mean, I've been in this in with, you guys since, man, what 2014 was the first
Oh, wow.
bodybuilding competition, and it was
Yeah.
actually in a bar.
Yeah, we celebrate 10 years of ITBP's trans bodybuilding this year, so and I guess you've been here since the beginning. That's crazy.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, we are
God,
so
that's incredible.
excited. I mean, we are so. I mean, I'm personally very excited
Yeah, me
about
too.
having you here because there's a lot of interesting stuff that's going on with you. Whether it's like your history with us, but also the way that you coach, the way that you think about right bodybuilding itself. But first of all, let's dive in. The more standard questions that we usually have for all
Well,
of the guests. Oh,
before we
yes,
hop
you have
into
something?
that, yeah, before we hop into that, I do want to make sure I say on the front end, just to remind everybody that we do have our competition this year in Atlanta, Georgia, on November 23rd. So, if you're planning on competing, you still can register and you can actually go to our website. If you don't know how to register, there's a post pinned right to the top of our Instagram feed, and it tells you like where on our website to get your membership and then how to register to compete. And if you like our conversation with Rufio today and you feel like you got something here, then the best way is by becoming a member. So you don't have to be an athlete that's going to compete with us to become a member. You can just pay the $49 a year, get all the same perks of a membership, and that's the best way that you can support the work that we're trying to do. And then in regards to the competition, even if you're not going to compete, you can go get a ticket. You can fly out to go cheer on the athletes that are there, or you can stay tuned for information on the live stream to watch online. So yeah, just I had to plug that because it's coming up very soon, and it's very, very important that people know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yes, for
But yeah,
sure. And also, like all our fireside chats conversations will be uploaded on our YouTube channel too. So in
absolutely.
case you came in later, you miss anything, we will always upload the whole conversation on our YouTube
Mhm.
channel. So also look for that, subscribe to us as well.
Yeah,
So yeah, so let's begin.
let's jump in.
Yes, yes, of course. So I'm just very excited to have you here. And we have to go through some standard questions before we go to like, the
The
interesting part
specific
of,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, the interesting part of you, how you really think about bodybuilding itself. But maybe you can first introduce us a little bit about, what interests you, right? To get into bodybuilding and eventually getting into coaching.
Well, I was born into it. My dad was a bodybuilder and a power
Get
lifter, so
out.
yeah, it was like, and he was a massage therapist. So like, I was already born into knowing about fascia,
There you
biomechanics. Like
go.
I've been a, yeah. I mean, this is
Yeah,
all I
that'll
can
do
talk
it.
about. If people know me, they're like, yeah, like we talk about some normal things, but he pretty much talks about like the mind, the body, and the spirit because I've been around it for so long. So my dad was a bodybuilder, and then in powerlifting, he broke his back in half. So when he was going for a snatch clean, so that's when he had to learn how to heal his back, how to learn how to walk again, all that jazz. And then he got into massage therapy because he noticed how acupuncture and massage therapy and myofascial release and all that helped him heal so much. And then years later, I was born. I'm the baby. So my oldest brother is 17 years older than me.
Wow.
He got the really young dad that was still in a kind of a lot of pain. And then my other brother is exactly 2 years older than me. And then it's me. And I'm the only girl. So and then my mom died when I was 10 and she wasn't really around much. So therefore, I was just in the broski from day one. Didn't
Right.
even have to like, didn't even know what trans was. I just thought we were all dudes anyways. So yeah, when I was younger, my dad like got us to do, bodybuilding pretty much, but like in a healthy way. So I started playing softball. Well, I played baseball because they wouldn't let me play softball that early. So I played baseball for 2 years and then I started playing softball. So I was 4 when I started playing baseball. And so I already had to do all the sports and agility stuff. And then I got into softball and it took off. But then I got into karate and gymnastics. So my dad was a black belt also. My dad had a lot going on too. So we just did what he did. So we went into regular karate. Uh, Even though when I was younger, I wanted to do Muay Thai, but they didn't have it in America really around. It was always karate in the 90s. It just is what it is. Um, and so karate and gymnastics and softball together pretty much just gave me a great understanding of energy, breath work through karate, and then gymnastics, which is kind of calisthenics, and then softball, which is sports. And then when I got into high school, there was weightlifting like I was allowed to do weightlifting as a class, and we actually had to, if we were on the softball team, we had to do weightlifting.
Nice.
So I got super into weightlifting because our coach was like a master, like biomechanic. Like he had like a master's degree in
Yeah.
exercise science. Like I learned how to do percentages off of a 1 rep max at 14 years old, guys. Like I knew how to do that stuff at 14. It was so crazy, but I could not, I sucked at math. But if you took me in the weight room, I could do percentages, I could do fractions, all that because weights made sense.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, I just started powerlifting. I actually held the deadlift record and the hang clean record and the squat record all the way up until my senior year. And
Nice.
then this big old strong girl came in and just fucking blew out my squat record, but my deadlift record was there like after I graduated. I don't know who has it now though. Uh, my dad died when I was 15, so I was kind of already homeless, living in my Jeep and kind of in the locker room at school and kind of at other people's houses. And so I didn't really know anything other than, hey, get to college so you have a roof over your head. So I got my sports scholarship to go to college, got to college, stayed in exercise science. Then my gender identity crisis came. And yeah, I wanted to, be a female bodybuilder. I wanted to do female powerlifting. I wanted to try to go to the Olympics in
Mm,
softball, but I realized that I just I couldn't do that. That like being trans and doing that, I did not have it in me at that young of an age to still be presenting as a woman and doing that. It was just so hard for me, even though I passed as a man before I even knew I was trans, which was also the increase of testosterone levels from working out the way that I did. My natural testosterone was out the roof when I first like went to go get testosterone. They were like, "Whoa, dude!" Like I was already growing a goatee, a happy trail. Like it was crazy, which was really cool. So then after all that, I just kind of transitioned. I still kept working out. Um, but I was pretty much stealth for the beginning part of my transition. Nobody knew other than
mm,
like the drag community, nobody at work and stuff like that.
right.
So I would go to the gym and just like lift normal traditional weights like powerlifting. And then at home, I would do calisthenics and gymnastics work still. Um, and then that's when I moved to Atlanta, found the community, and they were like, this whole trans bodybuilding thing popped up, and I was like, hey, I'm never going to enter a cisgendered man's because I didn't
Mm,
even fathom that in, back in 2013, didn't even fathom doing that. So I didn't even put it on my record. Like I didn't even compete in any like Spartan races back then. I didn't compete in anything that was going to define or make me pull down my pants and show my gender.
right.
Like that's literally, I'm from the South. I've been to jail. Yeah, it's crazy. When you have to like prove your gender. And so I didn't want to go through that. I didn't want them to check my testosterone levels. I didn't want to do it. So bodybuilding competition came up and I was like, yeah, it felt like drag again. Like because it was at a bar. I was literally like at that first one was a performance. Like my dad loved posing. I love posing. That's why we like mobility because the more mobile, the more fluid, the presenting of bodybuilding is what's so beautiful.
Mm,
Like presenting it is where everybody wins for me anytime I judge. Presentation. So yeah, just loved it. And then it kind of fell off. I didn't know if it was going to come back again. I traveled around like, yeah, I'm not competing in bodybuilding just because for me, it's it takes too much out of my life in terms of living a more fulfilled life because bodybuilding is also something everybody in the world should be doing 24/7. You're building your body in some form or fashion, but
mm,
you may not be going to the stage to present what you like to like what you're training for. Like
mm,
for some people building their body, making sure that they can pick up their kid is bodybuilding. They get to do that performance. They get to get judged every day by their partner, by whoever they see picking up their baby. For people that do have body images and have not seen ourselves in these way, we do want to step on stage. We do want people to see what we have built, what we've strived so hard to do, and
mm.
then step off that stage, look at that picture and be like, yes, that is what I see. I have to remember that when I look in the mirror because I don't have to be mean to myself in the mirror. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I guess that's my long, short story.
Well,
No,
you kind of answered our first two questions about like what got you into competing and how did that intersect with your transition. I mean, you gave us the whole story, really. So,
And I have so many like follow-up questions.
Yeah,
Like
I
we're
knew
gonna
you
ask
would.
you, we're gonna ask you a little bit more about, your experience with IATBP back to the very beginning later on. But then what I'm interested in is like, you have been like all your whole life, you have been into so many different sports. Why bodybuilding? And why, and what makes you want to really be a coach? Because there's a difference between an athlete and really being someone to coach right
Mhm.
people.
So doing bodybuilding, it was so much fun because when I looked at it, I'm like, okay, I love classic. Like, I love vacuum pose because it's actually yoga. Okay, like it's actually for our digestion. It's holistic. A vacuum pose needs to happen, not because you're a bodybuilder, but because you're a human being. Okay, that I love. When I learned that, that's the coaching side of me. It brings it out. Once I was like, oh, I want to look like an anatomy chart, but then I was like, I also want to be really, really big, then I have to understand how joints work. So when I started taking functional range training and understanding ball and socket, people are like, you must work your shoulders out all the time. No, guys, it's a ball and socket. It's a beautiful, beautiful boulder. I use it correctly. It's not square. It's not shaved off. That's all it was for me, is to be like, I want the body to work perfectly, because when it works perfectly, it looks like that anatomy chart. And when that anatomy chart, like once it's set in stone, you can then develop on that even more and get it thicker and thicker, but you still have to move holistically and do the things like that. And so I guess when I got all the way to 2016 was the last time I think I competed, was when I was like, also, guys, so backstory on 2016, I am a case study person on myself. That's why I think that I'm such an amazing coach, is I had to drop 10 pounds in 24 hours to meet lightweight. I did it by salt baths and losing that much water. It was very dangerous. After the show,
Yeah, it
I
doesn't
had to, I
sound
shrunk
safe.
Pedialyte. It was so scary. It was so scary. But I was like, I don't care if I won this competition or not, because I just won to know, like I had a little challenge, like for me, can I be in lightweight? Like I actually think now I'm like, I could have won middleweight, but whatever, it's fine. I wanted to compete with lightweight. There was more people. I wanted to compete in lightweight. I
Mhm.
wanted to compete with those people. So that's what I wanted to do. But after 2016, I was like, I don't want to compete anymore, because I love taking everyone apart and fixing muscle imbalances and blowing out lungs so their rib cage sit properly. That is where like my mumbo jumbo is doing it, building. I'm like clay, as a coach. But when I do it to myself, I'm very I'm very too much into bodybuilding. It takes away from my life. A lot of people
Mhm.
can still have bodybuilding and be coaches and be teachers and have an average job. Not me. I love the body so much. If I'm going to do something with my body that's going to make me want to win or something like that, like I'm all in. I'm all
Mhm.
in. And coaching, I get to be like all in with someone else, and they want to live that life. They want to have their meals set in stone. I don't want that. Yeah, I don't want that. I want to be able to go intuitively eat, because I'm happy with how I am where that is. But I do know if I wanted to look the way I wanted to look on stage, yes, it's going to have to be like this very strong structure. And I'm
Mhm.
great at making that template and making people do that. But I don't want to do that anymore. Not at 35 years old. I don't want to do that anymore.
Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, and I think I understand your point, because I'm also an athlete myself and also a coach myself,
Mhm.
right? So I do see, I don't know, like I feel like sometimes being a coach, so you're trying to say that being a coach allows you to maintain some sort of a distance, right, from your own body. But I also feel like I don't know, when I have students like competing, and I feel like I'm more nervous than them, like I'm like and I think at the same time I also enjoy that achievement, that I can see I can help someone grow, right? I can help someone to improve their physique, or or more, right? So I do totally agree with you, like the body and the mind are kind of connected, right? They're more holistic than we think it is. And so I don't know. I think, being an athlete myself and also a coach myself, I think both are really, really exciting roles. But I really like being a coach. So I do see that. I feel like I actually have more, I feel more achieved in some way, right?
Well,
Being
I
a
feel
coach
like
and an
there's more
athlete.
of like a purpose to it. Like I'm
Mm,
like everything I go out to do, I always do. I can I haven't ran a Spartan competitively because I like to run with the clients that I train for those Spartans because that is like me. I love the education. I want to teach people and I want them to resonate. I don't want to give them a template, make them do it. I want them to resonate and learn it. The more they learn about themselves, the more they're going to know how they want to actually move through the world. Like I did during 2014 and 2016 stop doing like athletic sports. And when I came on stage in 2016, no, I was not as mobile. No, I was not. So, and nowadays I'm able to do Spartans. I still do powerlifting. I do heavy stuff. I do Muay Thai, all this stuff. And with my clients, I'm able to radiate that to them. So it's the education as a coach that makes me so excited. And when it lights up in their head, when they understand, like, oh my God, this vacuum pose fixed my digestion and I look good on stage, boom, 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 like that's amazing. And that, like, the coaching part is fulfilling for me because I know I can do it with my body, but helping inspire and helping someone, someone really know that they can step into their power. Watching trans guys step into their own power, into a bigger structure, is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. The first beautiful thing I've ever seen is watching a woman go from osteoporosis to osteopenia. Watching that spine getting straightened out. Just because it's broken doesn't mean that the muscles can't be strong enough to straighten it out. And then when trans guys really feel comfortable in their masculine body, if they want that masculine body, then there's no stopping that person. And that, like, they can then get better in their everyday life. I love watching bodybuilder trans into another part of somebody else's life. Like when I train someone and then they become a trainer, I love it. Like, yeah, because now we both know that we can help the world get better through their bodies and then also take them away from like judging people for wanting to have these healthy bodies, because there is a lot of people that judge people for bodybuilding and judge people for wanting to be super healthy, just like we judge people
mm.
that are unhealthy, so I think the as my partner likes to say sometimes, I love Professor Rufio. Yeah, I'm a coach, but sometimes I'm like, yeah, I just want to be a professor because it's so I just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and it all connects, but it all does come down to building a body that you're aligned with, that you want to present.
Mhm.
That's so cool. Like, I'm very curious about. So it seems like you do not only coach trans folks. It seems that you have a wide range of like clientels, right? What do you think are particular challenges that trans masculine or trans men face in terms of like training in general?
Oh, lack of education. We used to be women, and not everybody was born into a family like me. Dear Lord, the lack of education. Everybody just, like, even in schools, depending on what school you go to. Like, I went to a public school, but it's a well-known, amazing public school. Like, I had anatomy in high school. Some people don't have anatomy in high school. I learned all that. I got to dissect things. Like, we saw cadavers in high school. Okay. And like, as women, we were already talked down to. Nobody's going to, when you walk into a gym, they're just going to be like, do this, do this, do this. They're not going to be like, how do you feel when you do this? Like, are you actually feeling your butt or are you not feeling it? They're just going to make you do something. So the lack of education around movement is in general really bad, but for trans guys, very bad, because everybody, all the trans guys that don't know anything, just go to the basic lifts of bench, dead, squat. Like they just do the powerlifting. But we all know that footwork is vital for deadlifting. If you don't understand putting your entire, like grounding your body, you're not going to be stable enough. So the education that footwork is vital for the rest of your body is not there. Some people can't even move their toes individually. If you can't move your toes individually, then your plantar fascia isn't working properly. That means that your glutes will not work properly. That is, your feet are linked to your glutes. So you have to work your feet, but most people don't know that. Most people don't know that the nerves in our hands have so much to do with the pain in our neck. And if we have pain in our neck and we're doing trap shrugs, the pain is going to get worse. And we may later down the line, when we get older, be like in a bad structural part, and then they have to do surgery on your neck, yada, yada, yada. So it's definitely a lack of education. Most people don't actually go to YouTube and say, what does a ball and socket joint do? They don't take the time. That's why you need to get a trainer. You need to get a coach. Because if it's not your scope of practice, if you're an average day 9 to 5er, you don't have time to study the body and then go work out the body. You need, just like me, I hire marketing coaches, I hire Qigong gurus, I hire meditation people. Like, you need to seek out the knowledge if you're going to do something. And in bodybuilding, it is knowledge based by far.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that actually transitioning really well to our next section, right? Really curious about, so you kind of mentioned some of the potential problems, right? That maybe, in general, the fitness industry, or even like, education, the lack of
Hmm.
education itself. So do you see it as the major problem in the fitness industry today? Or do you see, other potential limitations in terms of like how people train, or how people understand their body?
Oh, yeah. The environment's just killing us. Our
Mm,
environment, the people that are just stuck in doing what the masses are doing, not looking at your food. I mean,
uh,
in America, there's most things that are banned that you can't get in other countries. Like, and everyone needs to understand that. Just reading the ingredients doesn't tell you the carcinogenics that are in that part of thing. And in America, we have so many carcinogenics in our fillers that are bone, like killing your bones. They decrease your bone mass. That's the major thing in American foods. So you understanding that your food has a lot to do with your bodybuilding or whatever, that is key. And a lot of bodybuilders, they are successful, but if they looked at where they were getting their food, how they were getting their food, they would be more successful also. So environment, because you're forced to go to that. If you're a poor bodybuilder, you got to go to the daggum a dollar store. I've been there. I've freaking been there eating that, and I'm like, you know what? I think I should just fast at this point because I'm really not getting any nutrition out of this. Like, what do I like? It's like I'm just burning it. So, and then if you are in a 9 to 5 job, most of the 9 to 5 jobs nowadays are seated. You're sitting at a desk. And then you don't have enough time to do hip mobility. So you don't do hip mobility. So when you're doing your deadlift, your back hurts, but you're still going to keep doing it because you know that you're growing the muscles even though your back hurts. Like or not being able to be out in sunlight as much because they're in offices with blue light. Our eyes have so much to do with our occipital lobes. Our occipital lobes have so much to do with our neck and our throat chakra, as well as just our throat in general. So us
mm.
not knowing that we need to go outside and put sun on our skin for at least 5 minutes every day is going to hinder our vitamins, the color of our skin, all of that. And like melan's very important. So
So it
and then
seems
being
like it's a lot
aware.
of, oh, sorry. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
you're
you
good.
continue.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, being aware of yourself, like, also the phone and computers and
Mm,
everything makes us disassociate from our body. So, back in the day, before I did breath work, I had scoliosis and my lungs were closed. So, when I would bench, I just felt my front delts all the time when I'm benching. So, when I realized that my diaphragm needed to be trained, I trained my diaphragm. Once I train my diaphragm, my ribs from surgery and from binding and bras, my serratus muscles in between my ribs start to grow. And so now I have this huge, huge, sexy rib cage. But before, because of bras and binders and I was breathing poorly, my ribs flipped and I just breathed into my belly. And then I looked bigger than I even was just because my ribs were flared. So when I got into breath work, not only did I fix my spine, but like a lot of my bipolar problems, my anxiety, my depression, a lot of that lowered because I was breathing properly. Most people don't even take the time to understand how to breathe properly, so they can't get in tune with their bodies. Like yoga is a movement practice, but yoga is a lifestyle. Yoga is a way of living. Same with any kind of energy work, Qigong, Tai Chi. It's about understanding, feeling your body through these meridian lines because they play a bigger role in building the structure. And so people don't get the chance nowadays because they're working too hard. They're stressed out. They think that they have to keep working instead of take a time to rest because sleep is not rest. You can sleep and still be stressed out, but you can go meditate or you can jump rope or you can go on a run. You can jump on a trampoline and that's rest. The mind is at rest and the body is just moving and you're in that flow state. So it's everyone that is being taken away by other things so that they can't go back to being in themselves. And that's what I do with my clients is like most of the guys that you guys see in the first 2 weeks, how did they get those lats? Because they found their ribs. Once they found the back of their ribs, they were like, oh my God, I have lats. Oh my God, I'm so strong. Oh my God. Because you find awareness. So myofascious release, acupuncture, massage therapy, you're going to feel your body, but you got to be in your body. And then you can really feel it, like you touching your own body, you're going to be in it more than someone else massaging your own body. You thinking of your knee when you're going into a squat and how it actually properly works is going to put you in your body more than thinking of all the cues that you're told.
That's so amazing. Like that's so insightful. I'm like, I have no words to this. I don't want to stop you actually. But yeah,
Yeah.
but I think what you're trying to say is that, especially I think in general, modern people, like a modern lifestyle actually poses a huge problem, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
I
here
mean,
in
like,
Hong
I don't know how
Kong.
you guys are sitting in a chair, but I'm sitting in a chair cross-legged. In a minute, I'll probably go like this. I don't
Mm,
sit like average Americans. I sit like a lot of Hindu people. Like I don't I garden, like I do caveman things. I know that this world is trying to kill us. This world is trying to kill you through technology. Technology is a great thing. It is a wonderful thing. I love it so much. But also, the radiation from your phone. Do you have something that's covering that radiation? Do you understand that being barefoot on the ground is grounding? Grounding is taking positive ions out of your body and putting negative ions in your body. The phones and computers and Wi-Fi put positive ions in our body. And if you ever watch what water does when you put positive ions in it, it's icky. You don't want that. And our body is the majority of water. Whatever happens to water happens to our bodies.
yeah, I just want to say, I want to add on that, right? So I'm in Hong Kong right now, and what I realized the biggest difference is that we walk a lot here. Like, and I feel like Americans, especially, we drive too often. And, and with walking, you actually are exercising in one way or the other. So I think, and then we get sunlight because it's hot, right? And so I think, the modern lifestyle actually poses a huge threat. And I'm really inspired by the way that you talk about. I mean, I can see why, because you are coming from a background where you already have a lot of exposure about different types of ways of understanding or practices of the body. And I am particularly curious because you have mentioned a few times about breath work. Can you maybe tell us in more layman terms how this breath work works? Is it about just breathing? And how should we breathe, as more holistic in a sense?
So breathwork is there's more than like one or two modalities and way of breathwork. So Breath work is what got me into spirituality. I come from being a Christian and very, very religious, and now I'm very, very spiritual because of breath work. It really did open all these chakras. I wasn't able to sit cross-legged as a kid. I was in so much pain in my hips and in my back because I had a really messed up root chakra when I was a kid. When I did breath work, my pelvic floor finally opened, and so my hips opened. And so now I can breathe. But you like so let me try to put it without like being here for hours. So how we should breathe is we should be able to feel the air go in the back of our throat into our armpits, out the side, trickling down, and then you should feel your diaphragm actually push down. That's not belly breathing. We're not poking our belly out. We're feeling air into this dome, and this dome is getting so full that it's pushing down. When this pushes down, you should feel it go into your hips, and then things open up all the way down into your pelvic floor. As you can see, my scapulas go up too. If my scapulas don't go up, then I don't get to take in enough air. So when I breathe, everything lifts up. So I'm not
Yeah.
lifting my shoulders. That's air lifting me. But when a lot of people breathe, they lift and they pinch it in their neck. No, it's a slow breath. Slow breath. And then
What
once
is
you
going
finally
on
get,
with
it's that slow breath. So
No,
like once
there
you
was
get
a
all that
filter on
air,
you with like fireworks and
Yeah, there are
stuff. Is it just me that saw that?
fireworks. No, I
I did,
saw
I
that
saw it.
too.
Yeah, it's that slow air. That's what I'm saying. So it came out my
It was your
head.
breathing.
Yeah, I'm telling you guys. Yeah. So once you fill up and you're lifted up, you should also feel the joints in your head move. We have joints in our head. So if you don't feel the joints in your head move, you are blocking your air. You're not getting enough air in the top of your chest. If you don't get enough air in the top of your chest, most trans guys don't because of bras and binders and not being able to feel that, you're not going to be able to get that sexy round chest. You get that one that droops and you can't get the muscle underneath because your ribs need to open here. They need to build that muscle underneath, but you can only build that muscle so much through working it. You have to internally open your body up. And when you exhale, that all that air has to go out. If you know how to vacuum pose, you know all that air has to go out. Like you cannot have any air in there. When you have no more air, you pause and then you do that cycle again. But most people do not exhale all the way out. That's why they have anxiety. There's this constant holding of air in this area, and we feel like we're in fight or flight because that's actually hyperventilating. Most people do not exhale. When I first make people exhale, their back pops. Like you relax when you exhale.
Hmm, that's so
And
interesting because a lot
then,
of sports massagers that I have been in touch with, a lot of times, I mean, of course, they also talk about breathing, problems, right? But they focus a lot on inhale. Like, you breathe in, right? But they seldom really talk a lot about the importance of exhaling, and especially when you said exhaling fully. So how do we
fully.
know that we exhale fully?
Oh
Have
man,
you never
you
exhaled
got you
fully,
got you
Stefan?
gotta
Do you not know what
enjoy
that
you
feels
gotta
like?
enjoy being scared too. Like you gotta like play with yourself. Getting to know yourself the best is just playing with ourselves. When we were babies, we used to put our like foot in our mouth. We used to play. That's how we knew ourselves. We would scream. It's how we found our voice. All that. So for me, once again, being a kid, I was taught because my dad knew how to vacuum pose. So I was learned very young. He would be like, "Hey, when we get to the pool, you know that little slope that goes in the pool? Let all your air out and you'll be able to slide down." And I was like, "Dad, I can't slide. I can't slide." And he's like, "You still have air in there. You're scared when you get down there that you're not going to be able to hold it and then come back up." So I finally learned to exhale all my air out and then sink to the bottom of the pool. That's how you know you really have no air. So if you're in the bathtub or in the pool or in the ocean or lake, whatever, when you let all that air out, you're going to sink. You have nothing in there. That's when you have no more air. But when you're not doing it with water, you go to where you almost choke. So I don't know if you guys will be able to hear me, but I'll take an actual exhale. Okay. So I'm going to take a fast inhale because my inhale would take forever if you guys sat here watching me.
Yeah, damn. like
Oh,
scared that he's choking.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
now my back feels really, really good because I've been talking to you. Also, I have been holding some air in there.
Mm.
So it is really nice. And when you learn that, when you do the vacuum pose, it's like, it's the game changer. And then you also understand how long you can hold your air when you have air in you and
Mm.
when you have air not in you. And being able to hit those thresholds are going to give you life markers. You're going to be able to live a lot longer. And if you were a smoker or you had asthma, all that stuff, like that will start to clear out. Like a lot of the people that I worked with that had asthma from their childhood, they literally started choking up tar. Like I have choked up tar. I have done that. When you work your lungs, some crazy stuff happens. Like I actually got shingles. I finally opened up this side, this rib finally opened up 2 years ago.
Mm.
And because my body was stressed so hard at that level, I got shingles, but it went away. But it was still, and that was just from breath work. Like you can change your body and you can move into your body through breathing and understanding how to breathe through one nose, breathe in, and then letting the other one breathe out. Understanding the joints in our face will move. And if you were a C-section baby like me, we should move our heads because our heads didn't crown. So you need the joints. The joints never really did a lot of things. Okay. So you need to move the fascia in your head. Like people that do geisha, like guys, I'm 35. I have like barely any wrinkles, any lines because it's fascia. So geisha tool, scraping this is myofascious release for the face, but it does more than make you look pretty. It makes sure that all the muscles in your head is opening up your temples and your jaw when you're breathing.
Mm. And that sounds so much like, a lot like our Chinese practices. You talk about Qigong. My parents are practicing Tai Chi, and they show me, like, my dad is having surgery, like cancer surgery tomorrow, and he demonstrate one or two like Qigong movement, and he's trying to hit me, and it's so hard. My arm was hurting for 5 minutes. And I'm not even using any force, like I'm using my T, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
you talk about the breathing, the breath work, which is so important. And, a lot of your practices also seem to incorporate a lot of, like, in general, like, a lot of Chinese Asian medicine, right? Talking about, you talk about the scrapping. We do it every night too, not just for beauty, but for blood circulation, right? To increase that blood circulation in your face, relaxing your face muscles, and it could help prevent strokes because that's how the blood flow to your head and through your face in some way. So I'm just really really like I just find that it's very important for, I mean, Western bodybuilding practices. A lot of times we focus a lot on isolated muscle groups, right? We think about muscles a lot, right, in terms of thinking about body parts. But you are trying to kind of redefine that practice by saying that, well, it's not just about the muscles itself. It's also about the energy, right? The breathing and also the joints, right? And how they all work together, right? In order to form that, holistic, kind of way of like understanding and training your body. So I think that's something that is so amazing to know. And we kind of had a glimpse of how your clients or your students would actually expect from you.
Yeah,
you
I was gonna
know,
ask
uh,
about that too.
Oh man, they get it. Like, I mean, I
so
have
do they get
once.
it, or do they get it, or do they were? Is there any challenges when you try to explain,
Right.
more of these like less known ideas?
Because
No,
that's what I was
because
wondering
when
about.
I do
Because
it,
most coaches have, like, when you sign up for a coach, you usually have very specific expectations about, like, a training program, a nutrition plan. Like, this is what I'm getting from a bodybuilding coach. But I imagine with you, like, with all this other stuff, you must have like a different sort of methodology for how you bring in a client and start them. And yeah, do they have any challenges or difficulties kind of like wrapping their head around, like, oh, this is not normally what I get what I expect when I hire a coach.
I mean, definitely coming from someone that is a little bit more closed off in general as a person, as a human being that doesn't seek out other knowledge. That is hard. But once they see that it's working, like I will have some people that get really, really mad if they stop benching for 2, 3 weeks, okay? But after doing the breath work and the specific ways of training the chest and the lats to work in this rotational movement that the body actually moves in, they go back to the bench press, they don't hurt anymore, and they actually get a PR because the body works as one. Fascia is the overall muscle. Like, yeah, we have individual muscles, but fascia is what wraps around the entire body. So in a bench press, if I don't know how to ground my feet properly and invoke all of that plantar fascia through my back line, my lats aren't going to be strong enough to then hold that specific part. They might flare. If my scapulas flare a certain way, I'm going to hit my shoulders, not my chest. So training that, like, then they understand when they get there. But mostly it's like because I have one-on-ones with them every week. Like for a whole hour, I sit here, I move with them. I'm like, hey, do you feel it now? Do you feel it now? Okay, well then lift your shoulder a little bit more. Do this a little bit more. I, I, I'm I'm a specialist and a trainer, but I call myself a coach because I can get you to feel that feel. We just have to be there for a while. You have to work with me. Like you have to work closely with me. Like message me every day. You leave notes in the side of the workout. I have my own app. Everybody, like you get an individual plan. Not every day is the same. The phases, there's no phases with me. It's what is not working in your body. Let me figure out the problem, fix that, and then everything else starts to work. Like it's just a muscle imbalance that's making you not be able to use that muscle properly. If you don't feel your chest, do you feel your lats? Do you feel your serratuses? Do you feel any of that? Okay, well, if you don't feel any of that, we got to figure out how to find that. And you got to be able to break your ego down and find it. Like, I had a huge ego, huge ego. I had to break my ego down, and now I'm stronger, I'm healthier, all that because I was like, okay, dude, yeah, you could you could do some circulations, you never do that, like do it, but oh, that's a stretch, I don't want to do it, I want to just power lift. Like you gotta like think of it in terms of why am I doing this? So I give everybody like, what's your actual why? Why do you want to be on stage? Do you want to show off your chest? Do you want to show off like what are you presenting to the stage and why do you want to go there? That's the ultimate reason with all clients. Why are you coming to me? Are you coming to me for pain? Okay, well, we got to get you to stop doing the thing that you're in pain with to figure out why you're in pain. We'll get back to it. We're definitely going to get back to it. I mean, I power lift still, but I definitely did not bench press for 4 years. For 4 years, I did not bench press. And then when I came back, I PR'd so hard because I gave it a break. I did something else. I let my body move around in a different way.
Mm.
So the biggest challenge for my clients is how to feel like their authentic self still, not moving the way that they traditionally have. Because once they realize that like moving like a robot or moving the same way or doing the same routine over and over and over again is not serving them, then of course they're going to try something else. Like it took me years to finally be like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. That's not how you do it. And now I will always do it the correct way.
Mm.
I don't know if
That's
that
so
touches.
interesting.
I mean, breath work is
Yeah.
probably the hardest. A lot of people get really emotional. So that's also why I am spiritual, because when you do myofascious release and you release your hips and you start to breathe and you start to really calm down, you get really emotional and you don't know why. It could be your inner child. It could be your toxic masculinity, your toxic femininity. It could be all these other things. And so it's like a therapy session. It's not just me training you. It's like, hey, well, like what? Well, if it's making you not want to do that, like we'll back off. But we should like actually look more into this. Like, why do you not want to do myofascial release on your stomach? If you do myofascial release on your stomach, we're going to be able to mobilize those abs, and you're going to have an 8 pack instead of a 4 pack because they're mobilized the way it'll work. Oh, okay. You really don't like your ovaries because you're trans. Okay, well, I don't like my ovaries either, but they're there and we should still be okay with them. So, like, let's figure out how to be okay with them. Like, it's about being there as a full coach, not just a training coach, but like a life full movement coach. Because I tell everybody,
Mm.
yeah, if you're going to Target, do you not run and jump on that red ball and jump off? I do because I love it. It's so much fun for me. I just did a plyometric onto the ball, jumped off, did all that, made these little kids laugh because this old man's jumping on the ball, jumping off, like, and I enjoyed my whole movement that day. And then I went home and powerlift or whatever I did, you know? So teaching people how to move with meaning throughout their entire day will make their training session so much more fun and so much better.
I think everyone should hire you right now as a coach, right? And I mean, I'm also recently like have trying very hard to be able to do a vacuum pose, for example. And I also like, have encountered different, therapists, massagers, and they also talk about how, your opening up your diaphragm is a lot of times we store a lot of our emotion and traumas around that area, right? And so having been able to release them would actually help not just the pose and look good itself, right? But also, having that, spiritual cleansing in one way or the other. So I really like appreciate the way that, you put this into, I know you can speak for 4 or 5 hours just on that, but, I'm just appreciate so much that you put it so powerful and simple so that we all understand that. And I would say, everyone, people, if you're interested in really getting into not just, having traditional, coaching style, definitely hit you up. But now I want to move on to slightly something different, something that, about your involvement with IATBP with us.
Mhm.
We know that you were here since the very beginning. Maybe you can just give us kind of a brief um, involvement with us.
Yeah, let's see. Hold on. Let me take a sip.
Yeah, take your time.
So the first ever bodybuilding competition, like I said, was kind of like a drag show in a bar, and I loved it because I love drag, and I loved having the audience down there like that. I like that stage kind of performance. Um, and I,
Were you competing
I
at
did,
that time?
yeah, I was competing at that time. Yeah, I competed with like Sean and Trey and
The
uh,
originals.
the OGs, yeah, the OGs, us OGs. And then it was moved to a hotel in, I don't know when it was moved to the hotel. I did 2016, so I think that might have been the first one
Yeah, it was
when I was in
like
the
I
hotel.
think it got moved to because there was like a conference or something, and so it was kind of added as part of a
Oh
conference at
yeah,
a
yeah,
hotel.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and so I was there. I think that back then, everybody was just like trying to figure out where to put it and how we could do it, and
right.
like what is I did like that it was still like, hey, everybody try to wear like at least a Speedo or something like that, and we tried to do that the first time. And everybody that did the first one was already really into bodybuilding. Like nobody had to be convinced. We were like, oh yeah, we're gonna be there. We're not even like, even if we're trained or not, like let's go do it. But the other ones felt like everybody is like, okay, yeah, we're gonna start like trying to buy like the bikinis and like all these things and set other categories up. So like we just did that one. We all got on stage. It didn't matter I mean, like we did our weight and stuff, but there was only like four of us. So like we were like,
Yeah.
let's just all compete together. It doesn't matter what weight we are. And then the other ones, weight classes came in, and then classic, and now the non-binary and all of that. I think I would always do classic because it's back and pose. Like I just also love classic the way that classic is. Um, but I like how everything is now, and like as a judge, it was really good. It was a good like a good turnout, and everything. It was hard for me back in the day when the powerlifting and the bodybuilding was going on because I love them so much. But I would always choose bodybuilding, but I wish that I could have done the powerlifting on a different not a different day, but like a different week. Because like bodybuilding, when you cut, takes so much out of you. You can't
Right.
power lift. Like,
Yeah, we get a
and
lot of emails from people that are like, "Oh, can I do both on the same day?" And I'm like, "Do you really want to like deadlift 300 pounds when you're at like 7% body fat? Does that really sound like a fun experience?"
I mean,
And you're like
passing out is fun
starving.
sometimes, but not then.
Yeah, like no. If it was a week apart, maybe so that you could like put some carbs back in your body or something.
For sure. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think that it's been really well. I mean, now you guys have way more marketing. There's more going on. More people are involved. It's just the people and the people that want to come out and participate. It's getting a show, like getting a crowd. But I saw crowds start to fizzle out when I was doing drag in Atlanta, 10 years ago. Like it felt like getting a crowd is hard in general.
Yeah.
So and people also look at bodybuilding once again and like a Western, like modern person, they're like, oh, bodybuilding, cool. I might not want to go to that. They don't know that it's like a totally different, like a different way of doing bodybuilding is the way that we do it with all the classes and all.
Yeah, and I think you also mentioned like earlier about the potential problems of technology itself, right? Nowadays, like in the past, like as you said, maybe back to 10, 20 years ago, we all go physically to a bar, to meet people, to
Hmm.
get in-person contact with others, right? And I think COVID actually and intensified that technology itself that we don't actually need I mean that's we don't actually need in-person contact, but at the same time I think because of COVID we also begin to crave right more in-person kind of encounters and really meeting people out there, and I think that's something important, and I think IATBP actually provide that platform, right? Even though you might not be the person who's competing, if you come to our competition you'll be able to feel the environment, just the joy of it, being a trans non-binary athlete, having a safe space, right, to actually just compete and have fun. And I think that is something that we should actually endorse because these spaces, I think nowadays are getting tighter and tighter, right? Especially all these like in the last few years, all these targeting, towards transgender people, transgender athletes in particular.
Yeah.
Um, so what are your views about, in general, like what has been happening in terms of how people attacking transgender athletes and stuff?
Oh man, I just think it's a distraction because other people are just need the distraction to get some political way or somewhere or fear mongering. I mean, history repeats itself,
Mm,
lack of education. Ignorance is just a huge thing. Or just caring about other people's problems more than your own, fix your own problems. But I guess in terms of like ath athletically, so oh man, there's hormones, man. Hormones are crazy. So like there's a lot of cisgender women that create too much testosterone in their bodies so they can't compete in Olympics and stuff like that. So when it comes to being transgender, it's like stop talking about my body and stop and like if you want to talk about my hormones, we can talk about my hormones. If you want to come in terms of athletic performance. But once again, I can see cisgendered women that don't take anything at all, and they're still better than some cisgender men that take steroids. So it's like human, human. I think that everybody should be able to compete with who they want to compete with if they're comfortable competing with that person. I I still don't think that I could make my body look as good as some cisgender bodybuilding women that aren't taking anything. They're just natural. I'm like, wow, like mad props, dude, like mad props. So the problem with us not being able to compete in a lot of these things is just like overall it's just not fair unless we're able to go off of the hormone level. Like, yeah, if I want to compete in boxing at the Olympic level, then if I want to compete with a cisgender man and my testosterone levels are the same as his, I should get that right. It doesn't matter what my junk is. Like it doesn't matter to me anyways. Um, but if my testosterone levels are below that and I'm not taking testosterone and I want to compete with a cisgender woman, I should be able to do that if they're okay with that too. That's how I feel about it. But having these spaces for us to do it secluded from everyone also gives us the opportunity to pull in people that we would want to pull in. We're not excluding anybody. We have a non-binary category. So everybody's included in this, even though we're secluded the way that it is. And we're able to talk about it in a better space. It's a safe space once again. So if like a person that doesn't even like bodybuilding or powerlifting, but they're a trans person and they come and they hear these stories from all these trans individuals, that feels good. That feels good. You know, it doesn't matter if their life is totally different. You're still hearing another transgender person's story right next to you. Like, that's still powerful because we don't get to do that all the time. I'm nowhere near a trans guy, nowhere near. The only trans people that I get to talk to are my clients. And then I make trips and time to go be with trans people because I need that. I need that. I need to be able to do that. That is a different brotherhood and sisterhood and all that than me being able to hang out with the cisgender dudes all the time or being able to hang out with cisgender women. So the space is so important that I think that it should be excluded because then you still get to include people. The allies get to come in. They can be coaches. They can be, I don't know, maybe we do like judges that are allies. Like, we're able to bring people in rather than us being excluded all the time.
Yeah, well, it's not really, for us, it's not about like being secluded or exclusionary or anything like that. It's just simply there are people who they literally can't compete. For example, if you're non-binary or even if you're cisgender and you're gender non-conforming, you can't step on a bodybuilding stage because it's very like I say binary, it's like cisnormative in terms of gender presentation. And so even if you're trans, like you might be able to compete in untested, but you better make sure that you like present your gender the way that they expect you to on stage, otherwise you can't compete. And so for us, it's just about creating a space that doesn't exist and highlighting the athletes that maybe don't get to be highlighted for what they are doing by actually stepping on a bodybuilding stage or getting on the platform with the political climate that we're currently in. And that's really what it's about. And we have people that have like kind of commented on our Instagram and stuff like that that like we're creating a necessary separate space for trans athletes, and we're like, no, you've got it all wrong. Like it's we want trans people to compete with you, and we're showing you that it can be done in a way that's affirming and competitive and fair all at the same time. And because of that, we get a lot of draw from cisgender people who are curious about how we do what we do, or they, want to be a part of that movement. So yeah, it's definitely not about seclusion or exclusion at all. It's about showing people that you can include every type of person that exists, and the competition can still be fun and affirming and competitive and fair. Like, to assuage all the concerns that people have about trans athletes, basically.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you guys seem to be doing that really well. I mean, I feel like everybody comes and they know that it's a safe space. They can get on stage, top surgery, no top surgery. Because like even when I was younger, like
Yeah.
I told my dad I was gonna have top surgery before I knew what trans was because I was like, he taught me how to like make my pecs move, so I made my boobs move, and I hated that my boobs were moving. I was like, Dad, but you can like see the muscle. Can't you see the muscle? He'd be like, Yeah, I
Right.
can see the muscle.
The breast tissue is all in the way of the pecs
I know, I'm
underneath. It's
like,
so
but
annoying.
we can see it. These little triangles, these little fat packets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, I think, you both said it very well, right? So, it's not just about the question of exclusion, but also, inclusion as well, right? And how can we expand that inclusivity, right, in our competition and in, setting examples in, broader, right? Not just in bodybuilding and powerlifting, but potentially in other sports as well. And I think that is our, bigger goal. Maybe not necessarily, the very, immediate goal, right? Our immediate goal is to let people know our competitions, and have people compete. And I think that's always, it's important, to recreate a space, right? A platform for being yourself, for being visible, and we want people to be visible and safe, in our spaces. So I think we had a really really thoughtful conversation today, and I'm still so amazed by the way that you kind of redefine how we typically understand our body, right? By really implementing your experiences, whether it's learning from your dad, or through your self learning and through your own like competing experiences and your sports experiences. And I've lost so I mean I'm gonna have a lot of questions to ask you. I just hurt my back,
Hey, yeah, man, yeah, come on over. I'll help you. I'll help you with that chakra and those emotions and that back and the vacuum pose.
Yes, yes, those are important things. I mean, those are really, I think, a lot of times we think of posing as just one pose, right? And we want to that pose. Everyone wants vacuum pose, but they don't know the mechanism and the importance of just opening up yourself, opening up your body, right? And that not just improve posture and make you look better, prettier on stage, but also it's, really, a way of, as you said, more like a spiritual connection back to your body itself. So we are very grateful for you, sharing all these very, very valuable experiences, and having this very insightful conversation with us. So I think now we can see if we have any questions from the audience. Then
Yeah, yeah. The only one that I have, they asked this before the show. It's gonna be a bit of a deviation from what we were just talking about, but someone just asked, "What is a biomechanics specialist?" Because that's in your bio. They're like, "I've never heard of this."
Yeah. So biomechanics specialist is just someone that knows how the human body performs properly. So how the human body moves through space, how all the joints work. Yeah, it's pretty much just understanding like human mechanics.
Okay, got it.
so is it
Uh,
a degree or is it do you need to do is it a certificate that you have to?
Certification?
You
Yeah.
can get
Yeah, is there certification
there's
for
many
that?
certifications. There's a degree. I have two certifications, one from MT and one from ISASA. So I just keep taking them because someone's always going to have more information out there. And so I'm just always going to keep like studying on those things. But yeah, you can get a certification. Brookshire, I think it's Brookshire. Yeah, Brookshire has a really, really good one. They actually show a lot more, like with the actual human body, like performing on them and moving their joints. With some certifications, it's like you get a book, and you don't actually have hands on, and you don't get to see things. But with them, they will show you the muscles, how things move, what would happen if we twisted them and moved them, like all that stuff.
Mhm.
So on my side, I do have like two questions from from people who wrote to me about this conversation. I think one of them, involved about something about top surgery. Because a lot of times when we think of top surgery, we think of it's the removal of the chest breast tissues. So as you said, you think that the body is more holistic than that. So I think this person is trying to ask, what do you think of like maybe some of the challenges that your clients would have after they do top surgery? So do you think it's just a chest problem or is it more holistic in your
Oh, it's
understanding?
totally whole holistic. I mean, that's a lot. We had mammary glands. Mammary glands go into the meridian lines, like through like understanding, Chinese medicine and all that. So we actually took out a part of us. Like we took a big, when we take out our ovaries, when we take out our wisdom teeth, that's a part of us. That's going to affect us. That's a trauma. That is a trauma. So you're affected traumatically because you had them and you didn't want them. So you have to deal with that. And then you have grief that you have to deal with because they're gone and you used to have them for so long. And then you have to deal with what it looks like now and how it feels. Is it too flat? Oh man, I see my belly. Oh, my ribs are flaring. You have so many things start to come up. And then internally, when we're healing, we do naturally shallow breathe, and we're all told to sit like this. So our spines start to adapt flat because we're not supposed to move. We can't reach our arms, all that. And doctors don't know, they're not working closely with someone. So they don't teach you about breath work. when you're going after top surgery. If I would have done breath work after top surgery, I would be in way better situation with my body because I did have flared ribs because I was only shallow breathing. So I had to fix my ribs. But with my clients, I have multiple clients and I get like so happy for them, but I also get so sad for myself. Like I couldn't raise my arm over my head until 4 months because I was like locked in and my body set into that surgery. I have some clients after 2 weeks, no stretching, nothing, because they learned how to open up their lungs. So the surgeon was able to go along the cuts easier and not tack their shoulders into their chest. They're actually going along that cut line because the development of the rib cage is there from the lungs. But so then you do have to adapt like the scar tissue too. So you have to do myofascial release. You can do needling, dry needling, acupuncture, dry brushing, stimulating the skin, understanding all of that. There's so much that goes into our chest, like at a spiritual level, at a physical level, at a mental level. And if you don't address them at that time, you may hinder yourself from developing that chest as big as you want.
Mm. Wow, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and I think my second question is I always have these like first timers, or people who are considering, competing in bodybuilding or powerlifting. I think this person specifically asked more about bodybuilding, but I think you can also offer any advice for like powerlifting as someone who might be planning to compete. What will be your one advice for them, whether it's a bodybuilding or a powerlifting show?
One advice, yeah, learning how to breathe properly or getting a coach. Like when you understand if you're going to bodybuild, when to take in that breath before you do that lift or whatever, and when to exhale when you do that is going to dictate how tight your muscles are going to be, how long they are. So if I were to pull my arm here and I just do a bicep curl, this is a very tight one, very, very tight. I don't have the length. But if I learn how to expand my scapula, I get to work this muscle at a longer length. So I'm going to develop muscle here all the way here rather than just here. So understanding how to load before you put weight on. Like I can make 2 pounds feel really heavy. I can make air feel heavy, I promise you. Once you learn how to reach your fullest extent with your lungs and with your muscles, then you can build upon that. And in lifting, so it is that education. It's the education around the lifting. It's the education around all the modalities of bodybuilding, not just joint work, not just try to dive into all of it, and then the breathing within that. Also with breathing, I just want to always let everyone know because it's very, very important. The longest living animals in the world have the slowest breath. Okay? So if we breathe in as slow as possible and then exhale nice and gently, that's going to calm us down, of course, but our heart rate will stay at a very low level and we'll live a longer life because air is life. It is not just air. It's prana, it's energy. What we take in, all of that, that is powerful. And so you understanding where your breathing's going when you lift is going to make you powerful.
That's amazing. Like, I think a lot of times, even in meditation, they just teach you to, breathe in, and then you hold your breath and then you breathe out, right? So they don't really get into those details. Like you mentioned about, the air from behind and then you get in, the air, it kind of visualizing how the air moves, right? And how it actually strengthens your body in that sense. I think that's maybe, that's something that, what breath work could mean to, to a large extent. And I think practice and persistence, being very consistent, in terms of practicing it. Yeah, and I think that's something that we all need to learn because we miss a lot of breathing. And I just realized recently, like I have very short breaths, right? And I feel like a lot of people do, especially if we're anxious, we have stress. We live in AC, with hot weather. We just stay in AC all the time and sit all the time. And I think those are things, really, really that, shorten our lifespan, even though we do exercise regularly. So I think, thank you so much for all these very valuable, useful information and education here with
Yeah.
us
Yeah, of
today.
course.
I want to
Yeah.
be respectful of your time, but we did have somebody just drop one more question if you have another
Yeah,
minute or so.
I cut out the time for everyone because I care about everyone understanding what's going on and all that. So yeah, I'm here for it.
Okay, cool. I mean, it should be a quick and easy one, but someone just asked, where can we learn more about these practices? They also put in the comments as well, like any book recommendations, resources, etc.
Yeah. I mean, you guys can train with me. That's just the fastest way because I have put in
If they can't
thousands and
afford
thousands.
coaching, then like
Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah,
where
yeah,
can they
yeah. I know,
go?
I get that. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, it kind of depends on what they're going for. Like, if it's like about the meridian lines and things like that, you can just look up a chart of the meridian lines, look up acupuncture points along the body, start pressing them, see what happens. Look up certain types of meditation, nostril meditation, certain books about yoga, uh, life stuff. Read The Comfort Crisis. Read The Comfort Crisis, guys. It's a good book. Um, uh, yeah, just go to a local bookstore and try to find an anatomy book. Uh, Type in fascia, learn everything about the fascia. Be curious, like ask questions. Like when I have trainers that train under me because like they're my mentees and stuff, and they're like, but what if these ask these questions? They're going to ask these questions. Well, you need to have these answers for these people. So go learn the answers. So as a person, if you want to learn something about your body, don't be hesitant to ask someone. And if they don't have the answer, don't be hesitant to ask someone else and just seek it out. But I can also list a book. Like if you guys want, I can send them guys with like a few books and stuff because I it would there's some amazing books out there that will give you as much knowledge as I have as long as you just read them.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's kind of where they're like someone who maybe doesn't want to be a coach or can't afford coaching, but they're just curious about getting started with like learning about these things that you're very knowledgeable about. A lot of ways to get started is just like a podcast, a book, a resource, you know. So yeah, if you can't think of any off the top of your head other than the one you mentioned, like
There's MT Performance. I'm like, do I have it on me? No, I don't.
it's
I thought
okay
I
if
did.
you don't. We can definitely put it in the caption of the YouTube video recording, just like any resources that you want to send us, and in the comments for the Instagram post as well, so people will can have that there. And that way you're not pressed to like think of anything specifically on the
Yeah,
spot.
I'm like, guys, that's like a Rolodex. Like, and we
Yeah,
just talked about a whole bunch of stuff. I gotta get back to you.
I got you. All right, cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for taking that extra minute to answer that last minute question that came in. And Steve Fung, if you don't have anything else, I mean, I think I want to be respectful of his time, and we're kind of over the 75 minutes right now. So, you, you don't have anything else? You're good.
No, I'm letting you finishing.
Okay, cool, awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, I was pretty quiet this conversation because I knew Steve Fung was going to have a lot of thoughts and questions, and I was just very happy to just be here and be up like a part of the audience almost and listening to you both talk about everything. And yeah, Rufio, huge thank you for taking the time out to be here and getting as in depth as you could with the time limit that we had on your very specific approach to bodybuilding and movement training practices. We're both really excited to hear you talk about it, and you didn't disappoint. Like you love what you do, and the energy you brought was incredible. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you guys so much. I enjoyed it, and I will come back anytime you guys want.
Awesome. Good to know. That's great. Okay, so yeah, before we close out, I do want to remind everybody who is still sitting here at the end of the conversation about our event on November 23rd in Atlanta. All the information is on our Instagram, on our website. If you want to compete, if you want to buy tickets to fly out and watch the show, If you want to just watch the live stream and maybe donate to support us or become a member, all that information is either on our Instagram or it will be on our Instagram very soon. So just make sure that you're following us, and that way you'll also be notified of our next fireside chat that's going to be in a couple of weeks. So yeah, thank you everybody in the audience who stuck it out with us, and thank you both for your time. And not just our guest Rufio, but Siufeng as well, who is like it's like past midnight in Hong Kong right now, so extremely grateful.
Yes, I mean, I'm just very happy to have you here, to share all this information. And I think those are very, 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 very important approaches
Yeah,
to, just learning our body. All these bodily practices are that's not just one way, especially not just a so-called Western way, right? So I
right.
think that's just a really, a very inspiring conversation. Thank you so much again. And, we hope to see you at our show,
Yeah,
whatever role you are going to play with. Probably you're not going to be an athlete, but,
That's too
we'll be happy to,
close. No way.
yeah, but we'll be happy to have you around, like,
yeah,
being a spectator or bringing some students over. But yeah, thank you so much for your time today. And we wish you the best in terms of you exploring more of these holistic experiences and
mhm.
practices, and also your coaching in general. So thank you so much again. And thank you, Nat, as well for, hosting the conversation with us. And, we shall see, each other and in our next fireside chat.
Yes.
Thank you so
So see you
much.
in the next chat, and hopefully see you around, Rufio. Thank you again.
Thank you
See
guys.
you. See you.
Have a good
Thank you
one.
so much. Have a good night
Okay.
and good morning. Okay. Bye bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.